Suddha Bhakta Charanarenu Bhajana Anukula. Suddha Bhakta Charanarenu Bhajana Anukula. Bhakta Seva Parama Siddhi Paramalati Premalati Karamula. Bhakta Seva Parama Siddhi Premalati Karamula. Madhavati ti bhakti janani jatane palana kori. Krishna basati basati boli parama adare bori. Gora Maharaja Sabastane Koralo Pamanarange. Se Sabastana Heribo Ami Panai Bhakata Sange. Mridanga Bhaja Sunite Mana Abhansara Sadajache. Gaurabhita Kirtana Suni Anande Hridaya Nache. Jugala Murti Dekhiya Mora Parama Ananda Hoya. Asara Seva Korite Hoya Sakala Prapancha Jaya. Jedina Grihi Bhajana Dekhi Grihete Goloka Bhaya. Charana Sidhu Dekhiya Ganga Sugana Simana Paya. Tulasi Dekhi Juraya Pana Madhavato Shani Jani. Gora Priya Saka Sevane Ivana Sarthakamani. Bhakati Vino Krishna Bhajane Anukula Payajan. Pati Divase Parama Sukhe Sikara Koroyeta. Suddha Bhakta Charanarenu Bhajana Anukula. Bhakata Seva Parama Siddhi Premalati Karamula. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dust from the lotus feet of pure devotees is conducive to devotional service, while service to the Vaishnavas is itself the supreme perfection and the root of the tender creeper of divine love. I observe with great care the holy days like Ekadasi and Janmashtami, for they are the mother of devotion. As my dwelling place, I choose with the greatest of reverence and love the transcendental abode of Sri Krishna. All those places where my Lord Gosundar traveled for pastimes, I will visit in the company of loving devotees. My mind always begs for the opportunity to hear the music of the mridanga. Upon hearing the kind of kirtan ordained by Lord Gaurachandra, my heart dances in ecstasy. By beholding the deity forms of the divine couple, Sri Radha Krishna, I feel the greatest joy. By honoring the Lord's Prasad, I conquer over all worldly illusions. Goloka Vrindavan appears in my home whenever I see the worship and service of Lord Hari going on there. Upon seeing the Ganges, which is a river of nectar, emanating from the lotus feet of the Lord, my happiness knows no bounds. The sight of the holy Tulasi tree soothes my soul, for I know she gives pleasure to Lord Krishna. By honoring Sak, a dear favorite of Lord Chaitanya, I consider life worthwhile. Whatever Bhaktivinoda obtains that is conducive to the service to Sri Krishna, he accepts every day with the greatest of joy. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pasya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatanisatarine. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapalakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanska Sri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakam Vitamsya. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneswari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatirubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Siva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamritam. This is the volume number 4, entitled In Every Town and Village Around the World, from 1968 to 1971. It's a biography of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, written by Satsvarupa Das Goswami. In the chapter 3, entitled A Threat Against ISKCON. Boston, December 21st, 1969. More than 100 of Prabhupada's disciples and followers are in the lobby of the international terminal of Boston's Logan Airport. Kirtanananda Swami has come from New Vrindavan with a truckload of devotees. The devotees from New York are here with a large banner. New York ISKCON welcome Srila Prabhupada. Most of the devotees wear heavy coats over their dhotis and saris and are chanting Hare Krishna. Some play drums and cymbals. A few babies and children are present. Waiting passengers can only watch, startled. So why they are wearing heavy coats? Because the 21st of December in Boston, northeast of America, it is very cold in winter. Prabhupada's plane is late, and the devotees continue chanting, often leaping into the air with outstretched arms. They haven't seen Prabhupada in a long time, and they are waiting, expecting to see him at any moment. Oblivious of the proprieties of being in public, the devotees chant emotionally, building almost to uncontrolled ecstasy. The state police step in to tell the biggest devotee, Brahmananda, cool it. The chanting falls away to a murmur of japa. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The plane from London arrives The devotees are unable to see the passengers entering in the glassed-in immigration and customs area because the bottom 6 feet of the glass wall is painted black. Straining to see over the top, the devotees press forward, chanting, feverish, some almost hysterical. Suddenly, they see Prabhupada raise the hand with bead bag on the other side of the wall. They can see only his raised hand and bead bag. They go wild. Fearlessly, with drums and kartals, the kirtan explodes again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Advaita is tearfully smashing the kartals together and chanting. Brahmananda jumping up and down, trying to glimpse into the customs room, is crying uncontrollably and yelling, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, free of customs, suddenly appears before them. Kirtanananda Swami, reserved until now, leaps around airport chairs and runs to him. Everyone is pushing and running, trying to be where Prabhupada is. Prabhupada's saffron robes are wrinkled from the long flight, and he wears a knit sweater. He holds his white plastic attaché case in his left hand and again raises his right arm with forefinger and thumb extended from the bead bag. He smiles wonderfully, beaming to his children. Devotees cheer and cry, all glories to Prabhupada. As he walks toward the saffron-covered sofa in the airport lounge, the devotees move with him in an ecstatic wave, pressing in close. He sits down. Paramananda from New Vrindavan comes forward with his infant son, the first boy born in ISKCON, and holds him forward to Prabhupada for blessings. Prabhupada is smiling, and the devotees are completely, unabashedly blissful. Where is Hayagriva? Prabhupada asks. The question is repeated by the devotees, and big Hayagriva lurches to the crowd, grumbling and falling flat at Prabhupada's feet in obeisances. One by one, the leaders of the various ISKCON centers come forward. Sri Sri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai, Sri Sri Jagannath Subhadra Baladev ki jai. And place garland after garland around Prabhupada. Prabhupada looks beyond the wall of devotees at the newsmen with their cameras and at the baffled, curious, and disdainful onlookers. A bystander says, I think he must be some kind of politician. So, Prabhupada begins speaking. The spiritual master is to be worshipped as God. But if he is thinking that he is God, then he is useless. My request is, please don't take Krishna consciousness as a sectarian religion. Prabhupada explains that Krishna consciousness is a great science culminating in pure love of God. These boys and girls had never heard of Krishna before, Prabhupada continues. But now they have taken it up so naturally, because it is natural. Prabhupada says that he is an old man, yet he is sure that even if he passes away, his students will continue the Krishna consciousness movement. The potency of this movement is such that it can awaken awareness of God within anyone's heart. After the lecture, Prabhupada stands and is escorted outside, where a limousine waits to drive him off through the newly fallen snow. Riding joyfully in the car with Prabhupada were Kirtanananda Swami, Brahmananda, Satsvarupa, and Purushottama. A professional chauffeur drove. Prabhupada talked of London. It was an old aristocratic city, he said, and the temple was in a very influential area near the British Museum. The location is what it is called downtown. They passed a large billboard advertising a restaurant and lounge, Continental. On seeing the billboard, Prabhupada said, Chintamani. What is that? Oh no, Continental. The devotees looked at one another. Chintamani. Prabhupada thought that the sign had read Chintamani, meaning the spiritual gems that make up the transcendental land of Krishna Loka. But Prabhupada himself was Chintamani, pure and innocent, coming to the cold, dirty city of Boston, yet always thinking of Krishna wherever he was. How fortunate to be with him. Satsvarupa glanced at the professional chauffeur. Drive carefully, he said. Prabhupada spoke softly from the back seat, while the devotees in front peered back, barely able to see him in the darkness, and completely awed by his friendly yet inconceivable presence. The other day, he said, I told George Harrison that if he thought his money belonged to him, that was Maya. At the summer tunnel, the limousine pulled up at an automatic toll booth. The driver threw a coin in the chute, and the red light turned green. Prabhupada asked if sometimes people drove through without paying, and Brahmananda replied that an alarm would go off. They moved ahead into the summer tunnel, usually an eerie, nerve-wracking place, but not when riding with Prabhupada. I told George to give his money to Krishna, Prabhupada said. Not that he had to give it to Krishna by giving it to me necessarily, but that somehow or other he must spend all of his money for Krishna. But you are the only way to Krishna, Brahmananda said. Prabhupada laughed lightly. Yes, he admitted, at least in the West. This was the great privilege of being able to ride with Prabhupada, to hear him say little things or serious things, and to see his fathomless expression or his kind smiling. It was a rare opportunity. I am representing unadulterated teachings, Prabhupada continued. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, surrender to me, and I say, surrender to Krishna. It is very simple. So many Swamis come and present themselves as Krishna, and it is all spoiled. But I say, surrender to Krishna. I do not say anything new or adulterated. Krishna says, surrender to me, and I say, surrender to Krishna. Prabhupada asked Brahmananda if 50,000 copies of Back to Godhead magazine were being printed. Brahmananda answered that they were good. Prabhupada replied. Turning his attention to Satsvarupa, Prabhupada asked how the composing machine was working, and Satsvarupa said that hundreds of pages were being composed each month. Prabhupada asked Kirtanananda Swami about New Vrindavan. New Vrindavan would improve, Prabhupada said. The only thing wrong was that it got blocked up in the winter. Each devotee in the car felt completely satisfied by his brief exchange with Prabhupada, and they rode with him intoxicated in spiritual bliss. Most of the devotees had raced ahead to the temple on Beacon Street and were waiting excitingly. The limousine pulled up, and again the devotees were unrestrained in their adoration of their spiritual master. Regally, Prabhupada walked up the walkway and to the porch steps, to the front door, and into the vestibule, where he gazed around at the purple walls and the pink and green doorways. Surrounded by cheers and loving looks, he smiled. The second floor parlor, now the temple room, was filled with more than 150 disciples and guests, and they could see Prabhupada's form rise into view as he came up the stairs. He still carried his white attaché case in his left hand and his bead bag in his right. And although he had just come out of the winter's night, he wore no coat, only cotton robes and a sweater. He appeared radiant. Prabhupada approached the altar. He seemed to notice everything. The small Hare Krishna deities enthroned beneath a red velvet canopy, the larger deities of Jagannath, Subhadra and Balaram on a raised shelf above the picture of Lord Chaitanya and his Sankirtan party. Even the brass arti paraphernalia brightly shining on the small table near the altar. Turning to his secretary and traveling companion Purushottam, he asked, "What do you think, Purushottam? Isn't this very nice?" Crossing the room, Prabhupada sat on a red velvet Vyasasana. He spoke, and the audience was attentive. After praising the London Centre, the deity worshipped there, the expertly made puris for Radha and Krishna, he turned towards the altar and said, "If you clean the deity's utensils, your heart will become cleansed." By polishing the deity's paraphernalia, he said, the devotees were cleaning their spiritual master's heart also. As he spoke, focusing simply and purely on devotion to the deity, the devotee suddenly realized the importance of this aspect of their Krishna consciousness. "Who has made these clothes?" Prabhupada asked, glancing at Radha and Krishna's little flounced dresses. "Saradiya," a few devotees called out. Prabhupada smiled. "Thank you very much." Then he threw back his head and laughed. "Is Saradiya still fighting with her husband?" The devotees and guests laughed, while Saradiya covered her face with her hands. "Don't fight with your husband," Prabhupada said. "He is a good boy. Anybody that comes to Krishna consciousness is good." He then asked to see the rest of the house. 100 devotees, straining to see and hear Prabhupada's responses, followed him as he went downstairs. Although the crowd surrounded him, he remained relaxed and unhurried. He entered the press room, a long hall directly beneath the temple room. A large old offset press, a paper cutter, a folder, and flats of paper stock filled the room, which smelled like a print shop. Advaita, the press manager, bowed down in his green khakis before Prabhupada. He rose up smiling, and Prabhupada stepped forward and embraced him, putting his arm around Advaita's head. "Very good," he said. Standing before the printing press, Prabhupada folded his palm together and offered a prayer to his spiritual master. Jayam Vishupad Paramahamsa, Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Advaita asked Prabhupada to give the press a transcendental name. ISKCON Press, Prabhupada said, matter-of-factly, as if it had already been named. Keep all the machines very clean, Prabhupada said, and they will last a long time. This is the heart of ISKCON. You are the heart of ISKCON, Prabhupada a devotee said, "And this is my heart," said Prabhupada. Leaving the main press room, Prabhupada toured the other press facilities, squeezing in, ducking under, standing on tiptoe. The crowd of devotees followed him step by step. He peeked into a little cubbyhole where a devotee was composing type. The typesetters, he said, should proceed very slowly at first, and in that way they would become experts. Turning to Advaita, he said, "Everyone in India who speaks Hindi has a Gita Press publication. So everyone who speaks English should have an ISKCON Press publication." Compared to most authors, Prabhupada's literary contribution was already substantial. But he was not just an author. His mission was to flood the world with literature, glorifying Lord Krishna. Prabhupada's ISKCON was now 3 years old, yet his disciples were only beginning to execute his plans for printing and distributing transcendental literature. Printing was an important step, the first step. Months ago, Prabhupada had written, quote from his letter, "The press must work on continuously, and we shall produce immense volumes of literature. If the press goes on nicely, I shall be able to give you material for publishing a book every 2 months. We have got so much material for the Krishna consciousness movement." End of quote. And just prior to coming to Boston, he had written, quote, "Sankirtan and distributing back to Godhead and our other literatures is a field work of this movement. Temple worship is secondary." End of quote. Now ISKCON was printing 50,000 copies of Back to Godhead per month, and Prabhupada hoped to increase the sales more and more. Standing in the crowded, chilly basement, surrounded by devotees, press machines, and transcendental literature, Prabhupada described how he wanted ISKCON Press to operate. He said that after dictating a tape, he would mail it to Boston to be transcribed. The transcription should take no more than 2 days. During the next 2 days, someone would edit the transcribed manuscript. Then another editor would take 2 days to edit the transcript a second time. A Sanskrit editor would add diacritical markings, and the manuscript would be ready for composing. Prabhupada said he could produce 15 tapes, that is 300 manuscript pages, every month. At that rate, ISKCON Press should produce a book every 2 months, or 6 books in a year. Prabhupada wanted to print at least 60 books. Therefore, his press workers would have plenty to do for the next 10 years. If the devotees simply printed his books incessantly, he said, even if they had to work 24 hours a day in shifts, it would give him great delight. He was ready, if necessary, to drop all his activities except for publishing books. This was the special nectar the press devotees were hankering to hear. Printing books was Prabhupada's heart. It was the thing most dear to him. During Prabhupada's week in Boston, Purushottam continued as secretary and servant, out of duty. His difficulties in London had increased. Doubtful and morose, he came before Prabhupada 2 days before their departure. Purushottam says, "I had decided to live in London. I just felt like there were different things I wanted to do. But I felt obligated to stay with him because he needed me there. It was my job to at least get him back to the States. I felt that he needed someone to travel with him, and I just felt that I should complete that, have everything in order, so I couldn't say to myself that I had just quit when he needed me like that in a foreign country. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't speak against him or anything. I performed my duties. But in my attitude, I let him know I was really getting kind of distant the last few days. I didn't bow down to him. I would come in, but I just wouldn't bow down to him. He entered the end of quote. He entered Prabhupada's room. He did not bow down. He stood. He was too uncomfortable to sit because of the gravity of what he would say. Prabhupada looked up from his desk. Yes, Purushottam? Purushottam says, I went in to see him. I knew I was going to leave, and it kind of made me sick to do it. Anyway, I told him I have a lot of questions about the movement, the moon, and everything. I just don't believe all of this. He was very congenial about the whole thing. He took it nicely. He said to me, if you have questions, why don't you ask me? And I said, you yourself have said that we should only ask questions to somebody we feel we can believe or trust. He looked very hurt. He knew what I was saying. I felt like I really hurt him. I didn't mean it to be so defiant, but there I was. He said, I have noticed that you haven't been well lately. You've had some problems? I said, well, I haven't been trying to hide it. I guess I was trying to prepare him for what was coming. I wanted to leave that night, so I said, I want to leave. But he said to me, you've been with me so long, and now you are so anxious to go, you can't even stay a night. He said, why don't you stay at least till my plane leaves? That was 2 days later. I said, okay, I'll do that then. I was going to go back to New York. Actually, I didn't have the money for the ticket, and he gave me the money. He gave me the bus fare. I really appreciated that. I could have borrowed some money from someone else, but he said, well, you take it, and you can pay me back later. And I did. I gave it back the next week. He was very gracious about the whole thing. Actually, I could see that he had a very special, loving way of looking at the world. I felt that sometimes I could see things in a loving way, like he did, and I realized that I got that viewpoint from him. You know, that little loving spirit. He had that, and I kind of caught some of that from him. And that's one of the things I always remember about him. And I know that through his movement, I came to believe in God. Before I met him, I didn't believe in God. After Purushottam left, Prabhupada spoke with Bhavananda about Purushottam's doubts concerning the moon landing and his consequent doubts of Krishna consciousness. I can understand that he might not accept it because I said it, but how could he disbelieve the Vedic Shastras? Boston's weather was miserable. When the rain stopped, the snow fell. And when the snow stopped, the rain came again. Prabhupada tried taking a walk in the front yard, Bhavananda beside him with the umbrella, watching cautiously to guard him from falling on the ice. But after a week of Boston's nasty December weather, Prabhupada's cold was getting worse. He would go to Los Angeles. Los Angeles February 25th, 1970. On the auspicious occasion of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Appearance Day anniversary, the Los Angeles devotees received permission to enter the new temple on Vatsika Avenue. The rooms had not even been cleaned, and the large hall was bare. But the devotees brought in Prabhupada's Vyasasan from the old temple on La Cienega, and Prabhupada had them place on it a large picture of his spiritual master. Standing before his spiritual master, Prabhupada offered arati while some 50 disciples gathered around him, chanting Hare Krishna and dancing the otherwise empty hall. After the arati, Prabhupada directed his disciples in offering flowers to the picture of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Then, still standing before the Vyasasan, he said he had nothing to offer his spiritual master on this day except his own disciples. He then read aloud the names of all his disciples. Taking his seat on the low Vyasasan beside the large Vyasasan of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada gave a short history of his Guru Maharaj, son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and powerful Acharya of the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As Prabhupada recalled his first meeting with his spiritual master, he told how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had told him to teach Krishna consciousness to the English-speaking world. This large new temple, Prabhupada said, had been provided by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati as a gift for the devotees to use in Krishna's service. They should not become attached to the opulence, Prabhupada said, but they should use this wonderful place for preaching. As he spoke, he wept. Now bring them prasadam, Prabhupada called, and the feast began. While devotees sat on the floor in rows, Prabhupada from his Vyasasan directed the servers, having them bring another samosa to one devotee, more chutney to another, and so on. He watched over all of them, encouraging them to take Krishna's prasadam. That afternoon, Prabhupada toured the buildings. In addition to the main hall, which he would have the devotees convert into a temple, he saw the equally large lecture hall. These rooms, plus a 3-room apartment, ample separate quarters for male and female devotees, a parking lot, and a front lawn, made this the finest physical facility in all of ISKCON. We don't require such a nice place for ourselves, Prabhupada told the temple president, Gargamuni. We are prepared to live anywhere, but such a nice place will give us opportunity to invite gentlemen to come and learn about this Krishna consciousness. The cost of the building had been $225,000 with a $50,000 down payment. Prabhupada had more than $10,000 in his book fund, but that was exclusively for printing books. So although he usually didn't like to deal personally in such negotiations, he had made an exception in this case and had asked the other temples to donate to the New World headquarters in Los Angeles. He had even mailed snapshots of the buildings to various temple presidents around the world. Thus he had collected the down payment. And on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's Appearance Day, ISKCON became the legal owner. This was the only temple ISKCON actually owned. All the other buildings were leased or rented, and Prabhupada wanted to design everything himself. Hiring professionals would be too expensive, but Prabhupada had plenty of disciples eager to do the renovation. Kalanda knew a little carpentry, plumbing, and general construction, and he could learn more by experience. Bhavananda had been a professional designer, and he was filled with Prabhupada's enthusiasm to transform the plain church into a dazzling palace for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. First, you make my apartment, Prabhupada told Bhavananda. Let me move in, and then we will work on the temple room. Bhavananda says, we picked out a part of the Los Angeles temple for Prabhupada's quarters, and Kalanda built a bathroom. When Prabhupada came up to the rooms, he said, this will be my sitting room. This will be my bedroom. And when he came to a third room with a skylight, he said, this will be my library. Prabhupada had told me once in Boston that as a child he had lived in a palace with blue walls, red marble floors, and orange and gold trim, the Malik's house in Calcutta. So we painted the walls of his sitting room blue, and I put in a white tile floor. The drapes were burnt orange satin with gold cords and gold fringe. Prabhupada liked this color scheme very much. In the bedroom, I asked Prabhupada where he wanted his bed, and he said, put the bed in the middle of the room. We had put down a rug, and Prabhupada said, now you should get sheets and cover the rug with them. In India, they have rugs like this, nice rugs, and they cover them with sheets. And on special days, they take the sheets off. Otherwise, they would become ruined. So I went out and bought sheets. Prabhupada was in the sitting room when I came in and started putting the sheet over the rug in the bedroom. Prabhupada came in and said, yes, this is very nice. Again, I have introduced something new. This is something new for all of you, sheets on rugs. Then he told me, now make sure there are no wrinkles in the sheets. I was on my hands and knees on the rug, and Prabhupada also got down on his hands and knees right next to me. We were both pressing out the wrinkles from the sheet, and when we got to the end, Prabhupada folded the sheet under the rug. He was very happy there, because it was our own place. We had never had our own place before. In the temple room, Prabhupada showed Kalanda where to build the 3 altars. He indicated the measurements and instructed that before each altar should be a pair of doors, and over them the symbols of Vishnu, a conch shell over the altar for Guru and Gauranga, a wheel and club over Radha and Krishna's altar in the center, and a lotus over Lord Jagannath. The spiritual master's Vyasasan was to go at the opposite end of the temple, facing Radha and Krishna. The walls should be yellow, which Prabhupada said was in the mode of goodness. The ceiling should be covered with a canopy, and there should be chandeliers. Once the altars were completed, Prabhupada wanted to bring the deities, even though much of the renovation was yet unfinished. After constructing an umbrella-covered cart and decorating it with flowers, the devotees brought the deities in procession from the old temple on La Cienega Boulevard to their new home. Bhavananda says, the first time he came into the temple room after his morning walk, he went to the Guru Gauranga altar and paid his obeisances. We all paid our obeisances. Then he stood up and he went to Radha and Krishna and then paid obeisances. Then to Jagannath, and we all followed. Then we walked back and he sat on his Vyasasan and he told us, now you lined up facing each other from the Vyasasan to Radha and Krishna face each other. This way, that way, one way you look is Guru, and the other way God, and then back and forth that way. Always leave this hell. He said, so I can see. The deity was the king, Prabhupada said, and all the temple residents were his personal servants. The temple, therefore, should be like a palace. An elaborate temple was important for preaching. Prabhupada explained, because most people, especially Westerners, were not inclined to undergo any austerities for obtaining spiritual life. There was an Indian saying, no one listens to a poor man. Were the devotees to advertise classes on Bhakti Yoga in such and such empty field under a certain tree, Prabhupada said, no one would come. But a clean, beautiful building with chandeliers and comfortable rooms would attract many people to visit and become purified. The temple was also for those who wanted to live there as Krishna-conscious devotees. Devotees, Prabhupada said, should be willing to live and sleep anywhere. But as the loving, protecting father of his disciples, Prabhupada took great care to establish a large temple and an adequate dormitory facility. He was making a home for his family, to see that his spiritual children had a place to live and practice their devotional service was just another aspect of his mission. A special feature of the new temple was Srila Prabhupada's garden. The devotees had excavated a large patch of concrete behind the temple, filled it with earth, and surrounded it with a cinder block wall, and planted a lawn with flower gardens all around. Calendar says, I had dug some beds along the inside perimeter and planted a plant here and a plant there. But Prabhupada said, no, plant something everywhere. Everywhere there should be something growing. Everywhere there is a place, you plant something. Let there be growing everywhere. He wanted it overgrown like a jungle, a tropical area where plants just grow luxuriantly everywhere. Srila Prabhupada always enjoyed sitting in the garden in the evening with the fresh, cool evening air and the fragrance of the flowers. The topics of conversation in the garden were as varied as Srimad Bhagavatam, all different subjects. Sometimes there would be lively conversations with guests or devotees, and sometimes Prabhupada would spend the entire time just chanting, with very little conversation. Sometimes Prabhupada would just have somebody read from the Krishna book. Prabhupada said that his mother maintained a garden on the roof of their house when he was young, and that he would go up there in the evenings and play. He remembered that. He always remembered what he liked to do as a child. You would hear him reminisce with pleasure about it. Many times he would comment, my mother maintained a garden on the roof of our residence, and as a child, I would go there in the evening and play. Now I also have such a nice place to come. So we can end this reading here. Any question regarding this narration? Some very important topic has come in this course of Prabhupada's traveling. He came from London to Boston. It is winter time. Winter time in Boston is very chilly. As well 0 or -0. Sometimes snow falling, sometimes rain coming. But Prabhupada did not mind thinking that when we go for preaching, traveling, we cannot demand that the natural condition should be perfect. It can be very cold, it can be very hot. Like in India, sometimes very hot, 45 or plus. And sometimes if you go to Russia, it will be very cold, minus 50. I was reading from, what's his name? Swamiji. Anyway, so he wrote in his book describing his preaching activities that he went to a village along with some other disciples in the northeast of Russia. They went to a small village, and it went in the night time at that time, and it was minus 45. I don't think anybody can survive here, minus 45. Once I went to a hill station for skiing. So it is winter time, and the altitude about 2,000 or 3,000 meters high. It was minus 25. That's the first time in my life. I never experienced minus 25. And my nose became completely white, no blood circulation. My hand, and so I had to go very fast down the hill. Otherwise, I would become completely frozen. You can just imagine minus 45. You cannot imagine. So, but they went there for preaching. So, such a wonderful disciple of Prabhupada. Prabhupada showed the example. And those who are ideal disciples, they don't mind. They go everywhere traveling. They don't mind. Either cold or hot places, poor place, rich place, anywhere they are ready to go. They are ready to go to Africa. That's why we had a visitor, sannyasi, from Nigeria. How did he come from Nigeria? Because disciples went there to preach. And who would like to preach in Africa? It has such a bad reputation. But they went there. They went to Kenya, they went to South Africa, and we can remember that many Indian people also had gone to Kenya and South Africa to establish business. And they were quite successful in their business. But at some time in Kenya, one very ferocious dictator came and he said, all the Indian people, get out of here. And you cannot take your property. You leave everything here and go. We don't want you to be here. So all the Indian businessmen, they had to leave immediately, leaving their property there. Some of them came back to India, some of them went to England. So that is, Africa is like that. We cannot imagine what's going. You go to a village in Africa, you are not sure you can come out alive. Anyway. And what to speak of going to China. At that time, Prabhupada told some of the disciples, you go to China. He told Tamal Krishna Goswami. Tamal Krishna Goswami, Prabhupada, please, don't ask me to go to China. So another disciple went. Similarly, Russia. So anyway, this is the consciousness of a pure devotee, like Srila Prabhupada. Anywhere. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that every town and village, my name should be propagated. This is in Prabhupada's mind. So, everywhere, it doesn't matter. The holy name of the Lord should be spread. It doesn't matter in which country. So, and here we see that when Prabhupada arrived in Boston, 1969, that was the beginning of ISKCON printing literature. And Srila Prabhupada had requested some of his leading disciples to establish a press so that his books should be printed, and also the magazine Back Together should be printed. So there had been already many attempts to print Prabhupada's books in Dai Nippon Company in Japan, or in New York was named at that printer. I just forgot the printer name in New York, very famous. So they had tried to contact some outside printers, but there were a lot of difficulty. It was quite costly, and Dai Nippon is very far in Japan, and they are not very fast in responding. So Prabhupada thought it would be better if we have our own press. But our press should be not a small printing press like this to print some leaflets. It should be a very good press to print Srimad Bhagavatam and other books like Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Nectar of Devotion, Krishna book, like this. They were getting ready for printing. And Prabhupada wanted to. So he told some of his leading disciples, such as Brahmananda, Satsvarupa, and others here, Bhavananda, and some other very leading disciples, to arrange to purchase a press. So in Boston, Satsvarup Prabhu was there, along with his wife. She was the best among the artists for painting. So the printing of books was in Prabhupada's mind from the very beginning. Jadurani Devidasi was the first painter among Prabhupada's disciples. Many letters Prabhupada wrote to her describing what to paint from Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna, Radha Krishna, and all the Krishna Lila, and also the Acharyas, including Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and the previous Acharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Sankirtan movement, like that. They should be painted. And Jadurani sometimes was asking Prabhupada, if we want to make these paintings popular among the young generation, shall we adopt a modern style of painting? I don't know if you have seen modern style of painting. That is artificial. Modern painting means it is like you don't see anything properly. Everything will be artificial. Then you have to use your mind. Oh, this may be this. Oh, this may be that. Oh, so interesting. The new generation is like that. Prabhupada did not like this. He said, no, you have to paint exactly as it is. Don't make it modern. Don't make it fashionable. No. It should be realistic. Realistic. That is the way we want our painting. And Jadurani then started to paint. And Prabhupada told her, you should paint more and more paintings. We want to paint hundreds and thousands of paintings. These paintings should be sent to all the ISKCON centers, and they should be there in the ISKCON centers. So Jadurani was in this way, engaged full-time practically, 24 hours a day, engaged in painting. And gradually, some of the disciples joined and started to also, just like Bharadwaj and some others, Muralidhar, they started to paint. And Prabhupada wrote many letters. It is very astonishing to see how much Prabhupada was intent upon preaching Krishna consciousness with paintings. The text should be accompanied with painting. Just like if you say the Krishna book, Prabhupada said it should have at least 50 paintings. And similarly, Bhagavad Gita, all the important Srimad Bhagavatam. Every book should have many, many paintings that will attract the attention of the reader. The reader may not be able to understand the philosophy, may not have the patience to read everything in the book. But by opening the book, oh, such beautiful paintings, oh, then you'll be attracted. Oh, this is very wonderful. Krishna consciousness is so wonderful. And Prabhupada took this idea from his own spiritual master. It is not invented idea. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had the same idea, and he had organized some festivals where dioramas and some paintings were exhibited in different places, and in this way people would be attracted to go to this place, see the paintings on the wall. In this way become Krishna conscious. The same idea Prabhupada told also in the new temples, just like if you go to Bombay, Prabhupada gave specific instruction that paintings should be on the walls like that. So this is a very important idea we should always remember. So here also in this temple, the paintings are there, and this is exactly what Prabhupada wanted. There should be paintings. But painting should not divert the attention from the deities. They should be on one side, and when they look at the deity, they should not be diverted. That is also another instruction Prabhupada had given in this way. So, regarding printing, one disciple said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, the printing press is your heart. And Prabhupada said, the printing press is my heart. So that is very important. Prabhupada did not exaggerate. He did not give some false idea. Exactly. The printing press. Prabhupada told us many times also, the printing press is the heart of the temple. And Prabhupada again said, the printing press is more important than the deity room. More important than worshipping the deities is to print books and distribute them in the Sankirtan. The Sankirtan occupies the first position in the Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, and especially in the these acharyas, especially Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He wrote more than 100 books. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he also wrote a number of books. And what to speak earlier, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. That was the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the Goswamis of Vrindavan to write books on the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So we can understand that from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu onwards, of course even earlier also, previous acharyas, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, all these successive acharya, they became recognized because of the books that they have written. If somebody claims to be Acharya and we ask him, you have written any book? Or no, I have not written any book. Then he will not have any importance, any influence. Such an Acharya who has not written anything, nobody will pay attention. The books are the essential means of propagating Krishna consciousness and other temples that comes after. Basis is the book. Books are the basis. So Srila Prabhupada gave many instructions regarding book printing. Many letters were sent to their disciples to establish press, to print books in a very not leisurely manner, but at the same time, very careful manner. There should not be any mistake. Here Prabhupada mentions that at that time the printing technique was quite different. It was very, took a lot of time. From the writing, you have to put in print. From the printing, you have to put the letters on the press. It's a block letters have to be. Then from the block letters, you put some ink and you make a proof. Then the proof, you have to check the proof. You cannot print immediately. You have to see if any mistake is there in the proof. That takes time. Very carefully. Prabhupada didn't want his books to have mistakes, either spelling mistakes, grammatical mistakes, language mistakes. No. Prabhupada said, if our books have mistakes, people will not pay importance. They'll say, oh, what kind of book is it? They're so full of mistakes. He will say it will be a disgrace to our ISKCON society if the books are printing with mistakes. So at the same time, see, balance should be there. We should be very fast, not waste any time. At the same time also, we should be very careful. Not mistakes. No mistake. Proofreaders, Prabhupada said. First proofreader, second proofreader, third proofreader. That should be the system. So, Prabhupada gave very important instructions in this manner, and this is how the mission of ISKCON developed successfully. Prabhupada said, you print 50,000 magazines back to Godhead. Prabhupada said, back to Godhead is the, what is that? Prabhupada said, Prabhupada is the magazine, Back to Godhead, is the, I cannot hear. My ears are not functioning. Backbone. Not backbone. Another word. I forgot. Anyway. So, Prabhupada gave a lot of importance to the Back to Godhead magazine. Because at that time, there were very few books available. It takes time to print the books. So at least in the meantime, the magazine should be made available in very big quantity, 50,000 copies. And each temple, each ISKCON center should purchase the magazines and pay the money. In this way, the press should have sufficient money to print again the next issue. Every month there should be a new issue. And that is for English magazine. And Prabhupada told his disciples in France and in Germany, you print the German and French edition of the magazine. So it can distribute everywhere like this. So that is Prabhupada's very important idea to develop ISKCON to the magazine distribution at that time. And so he gave some instructions for the Back to Godhead. He said, Back to Godhead magazine should print purely Krishna conscious philosophy. We don't want to print some other philosophy. Like some people may say, kindly, I'll give you money, you print my article, put in your magazine. No, Prabhupada did not accept that. Should be pure Krishna consciousness. That should be the quality of the magazine, not some type of... advertisements, Prabhupada told them that the advertisement should be... maybe you can take advertisement, you can take some money, people will give some space for advertisement. But make sure that the advertisement is not nonsense advertisement, some type of hippie advertisement. Don't make it hippie advertisement. It should be something very, grave and interesting, not against our principle. Or you can take some advertisement and take money in this way. You can reprint the magazine. Otherwise, don't put any advertisement. It is not a commercial enterprise. So in this way, Prabhupada gave he encouraged his disciples to write articles. Even the same instruction applies to this day also. Those who are able to write, those who have good knowledge of the philosophy and are able to write properly they can write articles and they can send Back to Godhead magazine, they can print. And also Back to Godhead magazine should have photos of the preaching activities. Just like the Sankirtan, there should be photos. In this way, Prabhupada gave many ideas. And they said that the Srimad Bhagavatam should have the middle. In the middle, you should have the Srimad Bhagavatam. And there should be one lecture, one article by Srila Prabhupada, and other articles by disciples. Like that, Prabhupada gave these ideas. So, and regarding the Los Angeles temple, in this way, very important instructions. Prabhupada was here showing that you can have a deluxe temple, like a 5-star temple, but it doesn't mean that we should be attached to it. Anasaktasya vishayan yatharan upayunjadaha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. Prabhupada told us that we are following the Yukta Vairagya philosophy. Without attachment, we are not attached to any facilities, but we can use any facility, the best facility we can use in the service of Lord Krishna. And for preaching purpose, the temple is established so that people will come. Oh, it's a nice place. Oh, very good. Oh, let me go and see what's there inside. I want to go and see. So they go inside, see a beautiful deity room, beautiful, guest rooms also there. In this way, the people are attracted. Architecture and beautiful now entrance is there that will attract more people. In this way, we make it more and more beautiful. More and more people will come, being attracted. We are not attached to it. As Prabhupada said, that our acharyas, the Goswamis of Vrindavan, they used to live under a tree, not just one tree. Every night one different tree, because they thought, how can I become attached to a tree? No. Tonight, this tree. Tomorrow, another tree. So that is the example of the Goswamis of Vrindavan. We cannot imitate. And for the American disciples and European disciples, Prabhupada built such a beautiful Mayapur headquarters with the best facilities. when the foreigners are coming to Mayapur, they cannot live like local Indian people. No, in a very, they need some good facilities. It's not 5-star hotel, but it has to be good enough for them. So Prabhupada gave also these instructions for the Westerners. So Prabhupada had a very, complete understanding how to preach Krishna consciousness. And in this way, ISKCON developed so nicely. Los Angeles became the world headquarters. Those who were establishing new temples anywhere in the world, they were asked to, you go and see how ISKCON Los Angeles is established. And you can do the same. The same deity worship, see how beautiful should be like in Los Angeles. That became the model for all ISKCON centers. And Srila Prabhupada in this way gave all the instructions for that purpose. Any other questions? Okay, yeah? Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.